Welcome back. Today we're going to start to learn about the fillet and chamfer tools. So right in here in our features menu, a fillet is kind of a rounded corner that we typically see on lots of plastics, and this makes them easier to get out of like a mold. And this is the chamfer. So this is basically a beveled corner, and you'll see this on like kitchen counters a lot, where they've just taken put a 45-degree angle on the corner so it's not quite so sharp. So we'll learn about both these two tools today when we draw this key fob thing. So like any other pattern I draw, I'm going to get a new part to start with and hit OK. Okay, now I have a blank drawing surface drawn. The first thing I want to do is start my sketch, and I'm going to sketch basically a trapezoid. So I'm going to sketch, then I'm going to hit the top plane, and I'm going to put a center line in, because this is also a good opportunity to practice our mirror tool. Okay, so I have a center line in here. If you draw a regular line, that's fine, just make it for construction. And then we're going to draw in 1/2 of the trapezoid. So I'm going to go from here to here. Then notice I'm waiting for the lines to puff up, then I'm parallel. So for that center line, it doesn't matter that it sticks up one side or the other. Then we want to dimension it. I'm going to dimension this as, scroll down to the number, that should be 25. And then this one's going to be 15. And then between these two lines is going to be 70. So if I had made this the same length as the line, I'd have a line to make just 70, but now I have two separate lines, so I need to select this line, hold down the control button, select this line, and then make that 70. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Notice my center line doesn't go all the way up. That should not matter. Okay, so now I want to mirror my entities. So I like selecting the mirror about first. So I'm going to mirror about that center line. And the entities to mirror are the 3 lines that I just drew. That's why I like to select this mirror about, so I can see that it's correctly drawing those new lines, and hit enter. So now I have a trapezoid. Okay, so that is a fine trapezoid. Then I now want to extrude. So we extrude it, and we're going to go up 15, because that's the thickness of the card fob that I have. Okay, so that's 15 millimeters, so 1.5 centimeters, and we have a nice trapezoid. So we are eventually going to round off these corners, but for now we're going to leave those being, and we're going to sketch a little ring down here to put your key ring on. So to do that, I want that in the middle of this. So I could have maybe drawn this up and down, but still it's hard to select the top plane at this point. So I need that reference geometry. So my screen's a little narrow right here, so I'm going to go up to reference geometry. If you have your screen full screen, you should be able to see the reference geometry right there. So we're going to put in another plane, and we want that plane slicing through the middle of this thing. So I'm going to make it parallel to the top plane at 7.5. It's not my first time doing the part, so I already knew I wanted it 7.5. It probably says 10 to you if you haven't done this before, but change it to 7.5, because that is half the thickness of the part. So it doesn't look like quite half the thickness. I'm going to make that looks like it's way too thick. So if I want to go in and edit it, it's 25. I wonder it looks so thick. Anyway, so I want to edit that. And how I did that again is I right-clicked on my Boss Extrude, go up here to the edit feature. We could also have edited the sketch up here. We edit the feature and change that number to 15. And anytime you do that, it's good to hit the rebuild button, which you can't see because my screen is slightly narrow. So there's my rebuild button. And now I can see that that plane is halfway through, and we have a nice looking trapezoid. Okay, now I want to draw a loopy loop on here, which I'm going to use an ellipse. So I go up into sketch again, hit sketch, and it says where do I want to sketch on, and I want to sketch on that plane. So I can either select that plane from here, or in this drop down menu I can select that plane. So I kind of prefer the menu because I know for sure that I'm getting the right thing. Okay, so I want to zoom in on this area so that I can draw it. And this I'm going to use we're going to start using ellipses here. So we're going to go to the ellipse and the partial ellipse. And so how we draw the partial ellipse, make sure that's selected. Anyway, okay, partial ellipse is we hit the center and then we hit straight down somewhere that's nowhere in particular. Then I hit the side, and then now you can see that I'm drawing the ellipse. Okay, cool. So then I smart dimension, and I want the dimension from here to here. So I'm going to select that line and then hit the control button, and I want that to be 5. Okay, that's a fine looking ellipse. So we got the dimensions done, and if we start to extrude this, it's not going to extrude. It's going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's not a closed sketch, so we can't extrude this part yet. So we need to close that sketch. So I'm going to go to the top view again and zoom in on that area so we can see. So the next thing we want to do is draw in a line here. So even though there is a line there, it doesn't have it on that plane. And so now you can see that that area turned a blue, indicating that is in fact a closed feature. Okay, so we have that closed now. So now I can extrude it. Okay, so I'm going to rotate it so we can see what it's doing. And that looks funny. I just want it up and down a little bit. So I'm going to make it go up 2. And then we want to do direction 2 and have it go down 2 as well. Okay, so that's up and down 2. And so that looks nice. Okay. So now we have a little bump on here, but that's not going to be very useful for putting an actual keyring in until we put a hole in it. So now I go to the sketch button, again, sketch. And I want us to select on this very top plane because I want that whole area to go all the way through and make a hole in the main part of the body as well. So I'm going to select that top plane and then zoom in on that area. And we're going to draw another ellipse, but this time I want a full ellipse. How you draw an ellipse is we find that center point. You notice that we get that little yellow square that starts to turn orange when I select it. And then we select, you can go down here, and then here we just basically select the major and minor axis. It doesn't matter which one we select first. So I'm going to select the major axis first, so somewhere over here, and then somewhere down here. Okay, then we need to dimension that. So smart dimension. And this needs to be dimensioned 3.5 here. So select the center of it, then hold down the control key and select the edge. And that we want to have be 3.5. And then we want the major axis to be from the center to the outside. And this is going to be 11.5. Oops, from that corner. Okay, we don't want that. Okay, delete that. Okay, I think I lost my other one. So we could also have done from here. So select the top of the ellipse, hold down the control key, and the bottom of the ellipse, since I want it to be half to be 3.5, I want the whole thing to be 7. And then we want to so I'm going to unselect smart dimension and reselect it to make sure it's cleared. Okay, center of the ellipse to the edge of the ellipse, and pull that up, and I want that to be 11.5. Okay, it was pretty close. Okay, so we want I'm going to get on smart dimension before I can rotate it. So now we're going to put a hole in the whole thing. So I'm going to tilt that so you can see that that sketch is in fact on that center part of the plane, is on the top part of the fob. So I'm going to go to features and extrude cut and cut all the way through the thing. So the easiest way to do that is through all both. So you can kind of play with these to see what it does. Through all and through all both should do about the same thing. So, but if we did up to next, then it would just cut the main part of the body. So I'm going to do through all and hit OK. So now I have a nice hole in the whole thing for my keychain. Cool. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is start rounding off these corners, and we're going to use that the fillet tool. Okay, so we're gonna look at the top view again, but we want to get up into these corners. So I'm going to rotate it a little bit so I can see those corners coming at me. Okay. Don't worry about the shadow thing. It's just there. Okay, so the fillet tool. So we're going to go to fillet, and the first thing we want to do is round off these corners. So here we have different fillet types. We're pretty much just going to use the standard fillet here. Items to fillet, which we're going to select. And then our radius of fillet is 10, and that's what we want it to be for these top corners. So I'm not going to change that numbers, but we need to select our items to fillet. So to round off those corners, I just select the edge that is the corner, and it's not going to give me a preview for whatever reason, but I hit check, and then I get nice rounded corners. So again, we can rotate the view. You can see that those are nice rounded corners. And I don't know why we get a mirror on it in some views, but anyway, so don't worry about the mirror, but we have nice rounded corners to start. Okay, then I'm going to rotate the fobs like this way. So I'm going to start rounding up the corners down here. Now is also a good time to save your file. So go up here in File, Save As, and a good name is this is week 5. So we can call this Drawing 5 Bob. That works. Okay. Never want to lose the work. Anyway. Okay. So what we're going to do is start rounding off these corners and these corners. The first thing I'm going to do is round off these corners because I don't want it to interfere with the top corners. So I'm going to round off these corners first. Okay, so we're going to fillet again, but we want a much smaller fillet. A 10mm fillet is not going to make any sense there. So we want to just do a 2mm fillet. So I'm going to select that number and 2 down there, and then scroll up to here, and then I'm going to select these corners. And we could do this in 2 separate steps. So I'm just going to rotate the view and keep selecting these edges. So I got to get out of the rotate tool first, and then select that corner and that corner, and then hit the check. And then now you see we have a nice rounded corner there. So rotate the view so we've rounded off those corners. Okay, then the next fillet we want to put in is on this top, very top edge here. So again, I'm going to rotate the view so I can see that a little bit better. And we're going to do another fillet. Okay, so now we're going to finish this off, this chamfer, the fillet. So we're going to put the fillet here, and I want to fillet this, the area that we're looking at of the fob at 2mm. So then I want to select these corners up here. It wouldn't hurt to select this top edge too. And then I'm going to have to move this part. So I'm going to hit the pan and move it up just slightly so I can get that last edge I want. Hit the escape key and hit that last edge. Okay, so I have all of this area on the top and bottom selected. So we're going to go ahead and round that whole thing off. So this is looking like quite a nice, handsome part now. Okay, so we have a couple more edges to round off. We want to round off this handle now. Okay, so we're going to fillet it with the same. And we probably could have selected all these with it. I just don't like to get it too confused. So rotate up. Rotate. So rotate up so I can see that inside of that line. And then rotate down so I can see the bottom part of that line. I didn't have my fillet tool on. Okay, we'll try that again. So fillet. Okay, I'm going to fillet this handle. And I should be able to also just select that surface. If I want to clear these, I right click on that items to fillet and hit clear selections. So I'm going to select that top plane, then rotate view. And selecting the plane should It should fillet every edge on the plane. If it does it correctly, it might complain. Yeah, it complained. So instead, I'm going to clear that selection and select just those edges I want to fillet. So I'm going to fillet that inside edge, this outside edge, and then rotate the view. Zoom in a little bit on that area. So select my items, fillet again, and do the top and the bottom of that one, and hopefully that'll work. No, close. Okay, well, I guess I selected too much. Clear selections. I'm going to build the outside of it first then. So sometimes you get too much and it complains. So I'm just going to do the outside edges of this first. Hopefully it's all happy with that. No, close. Okay, well, I'm not really sure why it's not working. Okay, so I think I got it figured out now. So we're going to fillet, and I had undone this fillet, so I'm going to redo it real quick. So I'm going to fillet this edge and this edge and this edge, and then refillet that guy to 2 millimeters. So make sure this is at 2 millimeters. Okay, and then we want to fillet this little handle thing, but we're going to have to use a smaller fillet on it. So we're going to fillet that. Otherwise, you're going to get an error if you see the 2 millimeters. So I'm going to do it to 1 millimeter because it's a smaller part, and then it does. This program doesn't like it if you have a radius that's too big. It just can't do it. So I'm going to select the inside of the handle and the outside of the handle. You see how some of the other lines turn yellow. So these are the lines it also wants me to fillet with it, are good suggestions to like fillet with it. So I need to select each one of those little sections individually. And then I don't want to go all the way up the part. I just want to go up to that section. So I'm going to have to pan over. So you can get that last little part. Okay, so I have a whole bunch of basically the inside and the outside of that keyhole to fillet at 1 millimeter. So I don't want to select too much, so I'm going to do this the bottom part in a separate step. So I'm going to do this part now. Hit the escape key and hit the fillet tool again. And it should already be set to 1 millimeter, but I have to scroll down and look. And so I'm going to do the inside and outside of this as well now. With a slightly smaller radius. Those yellow lines are helpful to kind of highlight when I want to select. And so just go up. Whoops, not that. So I can just, if I hit the wrong thing, I can hit the delete button and get rid of that. So select it and hit delete. And I'm going to do the same thing up here. And actually did not want that base, so I can also just unselect it. Okay, that looks good. So hopefully that fillets correctly. Okay, looking good. And now I want to fillet. Looks like it also filleted around the fillet it all the way around with a thin fillet. So I'm just going to leave that. Seems happiest that way. Last time I drew it with a 2 millimeter fillet, but I don't think I can fix that without making it very grumpy. Because we can't select that corner anymore. Okay, well, we're just going to go with that. So it's a small fillet. We could also see if we can edit this whole fillet to be 2 millimeters. So I right click on it and then I can go back into it again and hit 2. It might complain. Yeah, it's complaining. So I don't know how big of a fillet I can do. Turn 1.5. Okay, that looks good. And if I right click on this one, also I can get up in the edit feature menu, makes the top and bottom the same. I'm not super concerned about what that number is, just that it looks nice. Okay, so we got the whole thing nicely filleted. So if it didn't fillet, then what you would have to do is select these edges around, or select the top plane and the bottom plane, and it should finish putting the fillets in for you. Okay, Almost there. So now I want to select my top view again, because we've rotated it so many times, and now I want to draw buttons in, because it's a nice keychain at this point, but we want buttons. So we're going to put some buttons in. So I'm going to start by sketching on that top plane, and then putting a center line in for reference. And I'm going to put a few more reference lines in, just so I can put the circles in and the square in. I want to pick like no points in particular. I want to draw one line vertical and 4 lines horizontal as reference lines. So hit escape every time you want to end a line, and then you have to restart the draw tool. So hit the left side, hit the right side, then hit the escape button. And I'm making these all for construction. And then we are going to locate each of them. Okay, so from the top, I want to locate this first center line from the top is going to be 14 down. So I select the top of the part, hit the control key, select that first center line. Now I want to be 14. And then I think I drew these so close together. It's actually going to start from the top and things will shift automatically. So hit the top line, you can use the control key and hit the line just below it. And this I want to be 9. So that moves that up quite a bit. And then hit that line, control, hit this line. And this line, we want to be 12 between those two. And then finally this one, and that point, that edge of that ellipse should be at 15. Okay, shifts everything up. Okay, great. So nice looking part. Okay, now for this, I'm going to have 2 holes in the top, so I'm going to draw a vertical center line in here so I can locate the center of that hole. So again, hit the center line, then hit the control key and hit that new line that you just drew in. And this one should be at 9. I'm not going to draw on the other side because I'm just going to use the mirror tool to get it to the other side. I'm going to draw my circles. So I'm going to draw a circle down here. All the circles are 10. So I draw a circle there, and then a circle up here. So we want to make sure we get that intersection. So notice that little yellow Q at the end of my pencil says we're at the intersection. Okay, I'm going to smart dimension those 2 circles at 10 millimeters. This one should be 10. Okay, and then we want to mirror that circle. We could also just redraw it, but I'm just going to mirror it so I don't have to dimension it. And that mirrors across just fine. Okay, it's a fine looking part. And then now we want to draw a triangle in the center. So the triangle has the top vortex up here. I'm going to draw over here and then over there. And again, I'm just going to use my mirror tool to draw the other side of the triangle. And I have 1 more dimension to put in. This is 4.5, so 4.5. Yeah. And I've already dimensioned the height as 9. So then I'm just going to mirror that across. So I don't have to dimension it again. We have a nice triangle. Okay, so now I have, these don't have to all be touching in order to be able to cut them all at once. We're going to extrude cut them down 2 millimeters. Okay, nice fine looking part. So let's make sure that it cut those correctly. Okay, so now I got holes. So we have nice straight down holes. We actually want to use the chamfer tool now to make those kind of an angle. Okay, holes, chamfer tool. Okay, the chamfer tool is under the fillet. So I got a chamfer. And here it's important to select the top part of the hole. You'll have a different outcome if you select the bottom edge of the hole, but here I want to select the top edge of the hole. So I'm going to chamfer that one. I'm going to chamfer all these shapes. I think I got the top line. So always zoom in to make sure you get the top line. Okay, top lines are all those, and then the top line of the circle. Okay, and then I want to chamfer it 2 millimeters, and I want it to be 45 degrees. So I hit OK. It's not happy for some reason. Let's try that again. So I'm going to hit rebuild, and we're going to try the chamfer again. Maybe I'll just do the circles first. chamfer at 2, 25 degrees. Okay, that's a nice chamfer. Okay, got the holes. Now we'll work on the triangle. And so it gives me a hint to save it, so it doesn't hurt to hit the save button. And we're going to chamfer that triangle too. Where's chamfer? And I want the top edge of that triangle, not the plane. Chamfer. And these top parts of that line. Okay, now it works. Cool. Okay, so now I got to kind of like cut out some little recesses for my holes. And now I want to draw the buttons sticking straight back up again. So I'm going to go back in my sketch menu. And we're going to sketch on the bottom of those holes. So that's the same plane running throughout. And so on the circles. So if you're not getting a hint to where the center of the circle is, just hover over the edge and then it'll give you a hint to where the center of that circle is. So I'm going to draw, basically retrace those circles. And again, I could have used the mirror tool, but I'm not having to dimension it. So it's not all that. Then I'm going to use the line tool to trace the triangle on the inside there, using the hints that the SOLIDWORKS is giving me that I'm hitting those points exactly. Okay, now I have 4 closed shapes there, and I'm going to extrude those out to 2 millimeters. So I have buttons. Okay, now we're going to rotate it so you can see our handiwork. Right, so those buttons are sticking up and are flush. Real buttons might be actually sticking out a little bit so you can feel them. But there is in fact our key fob, and it is finished and ready to go. Okay. So hit save one more time, and that is the end.